This is a book review on some interesting ideas I found in this book, The Social Conquest of Earth. I'll start with a quick review. I'll give this book, it almost got a 3, but eventually I decided to give it a 2. I think it's the title is kind of misleading. There is a lot of books about about the whole social revolution. I thought this is more about that, but it's not that much about it. It's more about evolution, which has some relation to it, but not as much as the book is mostly about evolution and group selection, kin selection, about theories, evolution theory. I would call this book evolution theory more than the social conquest of Earth. I felt also that there is a lot of unrelated topics that were like a little confusing. There is also some in the notes. I also wrote some things that are related to the book. How good and bad is it? So we'll see that a little later. But overall, again, I found this a little confusing and highly technical at times. So overall, I'll give it a 2 stars. I read other books about the social revolution, etc., and they were much better. So there's a lot of them, especially in the last few years. So definitely recommend a different book than this one. Let's see the notes. The development of fingers and hands contributed to the rise of humans as it offers benefits with eating and such. So the fingers, most animals don't have fingers, so fingers were actually highly important for the development of humans, since it really helps find food, peel food, and mess around with objects. Social populations depend on one another for survival, but they're also competing with one another for resources and mating. So they are dependent, so it's like this little fine line. So they are dependent on one another for survival, but they're also competing with one another for resources and mating. So it's a kind of an interesting zone. Multi-level selection is a combination of individual selection and group selection. When individuals find a better way to do things, it's good for him and for the groups. That's the multi-level selection, which is a combination of individual and the group selection, because when someone is finding a different way, it works in those 2 levels. In an individual level, it helps him to survive and also helps the whole group to survive, because they learn that thing as well. Tribalism is deeply embedded within us for years and years. Even Buddhists were engaging heavily in war. Some things that the Buddhists, because they were like more peaceful, they were not engaged in wars, but apparently they did. I didn't know that. Apparently they did, and tribalism is deeply embedded within our genes. Chimpanzees, just like humans, are highly territorial and engage in complex wars. So I didn't know that they actually have. I don't think he described those wars in this book, but he referenced to a different book that they wrote more extensively about this subject. But it's kind of interesting that they actually engage in wars and they know which group is against who group, and they have all kinds of deceiving. It's quite interesting. Most populations usually grow exponentially until their limit. Every time is a different limit, but there is always some limit. So usually there is a population grow exponentially, so it's like almost double every year or something. But they always reach a limit. Every time is a different limit, but there's always some limit. So usually it's diseases or lack of food, and then different wars and different things. Every side note, there is too much non-important historic data. So it goes way back in history. Some of it is really unrelated and not important. That's what I felt. Some ants develop advanced agriculture in their habitat. So the inside of there, they actually, grow food, but similar kind of an idea. They have an advanced agriculture system in there, which is quite interesting. Within a group, genes tend to be selfish. Between groups, altruistic genes have an advantage. So within the group, I think that's in the reference of the selfish gene by Richard Dawkins, that the genes are usually selfish. So what he claims is that within the group, the genes tend to be selfish. But between the groups, because everyone, before that, within the group, everyone trying to survive. But between groups, so now the group is being selfish, that's the way I see it. The group is being selfish against a different group, but therefore there is altruistic genes will have an advantage between the group, within the group, against a different group. I hope that makes sense. Side note, the whole part about theories, refutations, and his own theories is a little confusing. So this is like, he has a lot kind of extensive part about theories and different theories, kin selection versus group selection. I think he could do much better job. It was a little confusing. I don't think it was important to get into that in the first place, but I think even if he decided to go into it, he could do much a better job. In general, he didn't do a good job of explaining things very well. Kin selection may occur, but this is not the only thing that's going on. So he kind of didn't like the idea of kin selection. He thinks there is more going on than just kin selection. Even in the animal kingdom, animals try to prevent incest by leaving the group and join a different one. So they have kind of it's embedded within the genes or something like that, similar to that. And they try to prevent, that's the way, one of the ways to prevent incest is by leaving the group. So even kids these days, human kids, like to leave and kind of rebel and leave and go to a different place. And that helps to prevent incest. And as I note, there is too much unnecessary details about unimportant and unrelated subjects. I really felt like I kind of lost the idea of what this whole book is about, because it's totally unrelated subject and kind of lost my way there. I don't know what was his idea. Side note, the author writing style is extremely dry. So I spoke a little bit about it before, but highly technical, dry, and not very clear and easy to understand. Individual selection could be the morally wrong side, while group selection could be the virtuous side. So I have an important, I like this part, this pound sign. So individual selection could be the morally wrong side. That's kind of the selfish side. That's the individual selection. By group selection could be the virtuous side. That's when you're trying to help the group and not yourself. That's more the altruistic side. It's kind of an interesting theory, connecting the individual versus group selection to moral or morality. On a side note, there's a lot of side notes. The author tried to be generalized by incorporating many details, but some of it is totally unrelated to the topic. So I spoke a little about it. But again, definitely unrelated subject. I think in the end of the book, he started to talk about religion, which I thought it's unrelated, and what we should do in the future. So he kind of trying to incorporate philosophy into it, which he didn't do a good job again. And the last one, we tend to prefer living in environments that increase survival odds, such as water, forest, and more. So that's kind of always, people like water next to the forest, and the reason is, deep inside, could be that water is actually a good resource, forest is a good resource because usually there's more animals and such. It's interesting. So that's it for the notes. So again, the book, getting a 2. I would not highly recommend this. Definitely there is better books about all the social aspects of things. And that's it.